What's up, everybody? It's Ronald, and I need your help. We're trying to grow the audience of Leaving the Theater, and the first step to doing that is by getting some information from you, my dedicated, loyal, and opinionated listeners. So wherever you're listening right now, please go to the show notes of this episode and click on the link that says Listener Survey. By completing this survey, you're helping to support the growth of Leaving the Theater and ohitsBigRon Studios. We use this information to determine how often we release episodes, if and when you hear ads, what types of ads you'll hear, and generally just to find out who exactly listens to the show. If we know the audience, we can grow the audience. So please, 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 please complete that survey as soon as you can. Once again, it's in the show notes. It's very easy. It takes probably about an average of 6 to 8 minutes to complete. Nothing too intrusive. You will be helping the show. So please, please, please complete that survey. Thank you so much. Now let's start the show. What do aliens, climate change, and solar flares as predicted by the Mayan calendar have in common? They're all methods by which director Roland Emmerich has destroyed the planet in his movies. In his newest release, Moonfall, Emmerich is up to his destructive habits once again, as scientists discover that the moon's orbit is bringing it closer and closer to a collision course with Earth. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm leaving the theater. All right, this is Ronald, and I am leaving the theater after seeing Moonfall, written by Roland Emmerich, Harold Kloser, and Spenser Cohen, directed by Roland Emmerich, starring Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, John Bradley, Michael Pena, Charlie Plummer, Kelly Yu, Donald Sutherland, briefly, Ikwakor, Carolina Bartczak, and Maxim Roy. All right, so I have a very special guest today, and it is ironic that we saw this movie as we're leaving the Udvar Hazy. What's the official name of this place?
The Stephen F. Udvar Hazy Center.
Okay, we are leaving the Stephen F. Hazy Udvar. Wait, the Stephen F.
You can see it. You can see it.
Oh, there it is. There it is. What are we looking at?
We are looking at Space Shuttle Discovery.
There it is. We're looking at the Space Shuttle Discovery as we leave the Stephen F. Udvar Hazy Space Center in Chantilly, Virginia. There's an IMAX here, and I'm about to introduce you to the voice you just heard. Some of you astute listeners, you may know him from Pop Culture Happy Hour, but he is more than just an action movie hero or action movie critic, action movie enthusiast, whatever. He has many more stripes to his record, when I think it's important that he was here today for this particular movie. But yeah, I will stop delaying the actual introduction, get straight to it. I have with me the great Chris Klimek.
Hello. Moonfall!
Okay, so we saw this movie at Udvar Hazy, which I think honestly was the only way to see this movie. If you're warm enough, we can just stand by my car and record. Okay, cool. But yeah, which I think is the only way to see this movie. So just so the listeners know, Moonfall is another Roland Emmerich joint, and it is about the moon falling out of orbit and essentially beginning to crash into the Earth. And which if you know anything about Roland Emmerich's past work, he is very good at destroying the Earth. That is what he does well. I think watching a movie like Moonfall makes me think we should just give him technology and let him destroy the moon all the time. Destroy the Earth all the time. Every time there's an update in movie technology. All of that being said, disaster ensues, chaos happens, and a couple of plucky heroes go on a mission to save the planet. And yeah, that's pretty much the movie. Chris Klimek, what did you think?
This is ruthlessly efficient. It's just the credits take it just a hair over 2 hours, but we get the whole business. We get the redemption arc for the burnout astronaut who was unfairly railroaded for a tragedy in his past that ended his NASA career. And before 2 hours have passed, we have gone through the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and Star Trek: The Motion Picture. These like heady sci-fi movies interrogating the origin of the species. I don't like it when people celebrate the dumbness of things necessarily. When
neither does Roland Emmerich.
as an asset, but there is some inspiration, I think, in I don't know. His just sustained ability to be like, okay, but just say it was happening. Just say it was. No, I know, but you're gonna get hung up on that. But hang on, I'm gonna throw 9 other absurd things at you really quickly. Yes. Just come on, just go with it. Just work with me here. I'm not sorry. I'm willing to go for the ride.
So. As a Roland Emmerich enthusiast, I grew up on Independence Day, and of course I stuck with him through. Okay, thank you.
Security.
We might have to walk and drive that way. So we'll get in the car and then we'll drive outside of the gate, and then we can keep recording. I might have to have you hold the recorder. All right. So for those that couldn't hear everything, the gate is going to close at the Stephen F. Udvar-Hazy Space Center, so we have to drive out of it so we can keep recording. So hold this while I drive and just.
All right.
Okay.
I wonder about the other 2 people who were seeing Moonfall with us, Ronald. What's their story? They were not here together.
No,
we were seated far apart. Are they?
Yeah. We were all, me and you sat 1 seat apart, but everyone else was sitting everyone had their own rows.
I felt very safe.
Yeah, I felt completely safe. If anybody is interested in seeing a movie at the Stephen F. Udvar-Hazy Space Center, you should do it, especially if you're in the DC area. But what I was going to get into earlier was I was talking about I am a bit of a Roland Emmerich, I feel like enthusiast, or I don't know, enthusiast. I'm using the word enthusiast.
Don't say apologist, Ron. Don't say apologist.
Definitely not apologist. Maybe an apologist. I don't know. But yeah, I'm a bit of a. I like Stephen F. Udvar-Hazy. I like Roland Emmerich, and I feel like
I like the early Udvar-Hazy work. I don't know. After he went in a direction I didn't.
His latest work wasn't exactly. But anyway, I like his movies, but it feels like he kind of did a greatest hits in this one. There's elements from Day After Tomorrow right off the bat. There's elements from Independence Day throughout, from beginning to end, just Independence Day. And I even thought that if you saw the failed sequel to Independence Day Resurgence,
Which I did.
Okay, then I had a feeling. How do we get out of here? Oh, okay, I see it. Yep.
Through the gate.
Just
floor it.
Yeah, just go. Yeah, all right. So we are escaping the Stephen F. Udvar-Hazy. Yeah, all right, we're good. Okay. All right, so I'm going to pull over on this shoulder.
All right.
And we'll keep recording that way.
I bet that same security guard.
He's going to be like, hey, what are you still doing here?
He's going to pull up and shine his flashlight.
You got to get out of here. But like, we're trying. We're making audio magic.
This is journalism.
Yeah. Okay. So,
That's him, by the way.
Is that him? Oh, okay. Yeah, so I feel like he kind of mashed up everything. And if you saw Resurgence, what I saw in this movie was ideas that I think were starting in Resurgence that were never fully realized because that movie was not very good and did not get a sequel. And it feels like he was kind of making up for that here. What did you think about this movie as part of the greater Emmerich cinematic universe?
Yeah, I think he likes these heady ideas. He, this whole notion that humanity is the offshoot of another species that had its whole development in fruition and spread its self throughout the cosmos, and had its own war with sentient machines that it created itself as a we've seen many iterations of that, but we haven't seen the suggestion that this all happened previously.
Yes.
And
yes.
And we are Life 2.0. Yeah, clearly he has these heady ideas that he wants to stir in with his melodramatic kind of 70s disaster flick thing about, like, I'm gonna have you follow some fairly thinly drawn characters.
Weak character development. 100% agree. You're being generous. I was ready to rant in my best Glenn Weldon voice. Like, these characters are weak. They are weak. They are not strong at all. Like, they thinly drawn, I think, is very generous.
But what I remember clearly from the several times that I went to go see Independence Day in 1996, Ron, how every time the dog leaps out of the path of flame or out of the death ray, whatever it was, and the dog survives, everyone clapped.
Correct.
You know, I mean, this is a movie like I think probably all subsequent Roland Emmerich films, maybe not White House Down, but with a body count in the millions. I mean, catastrophic death toll.
Yeah.
But people, they're so happy that the dog made it. You know, and I mean, this is a guy who seems to really delight in saying, like, well, what about this dumb kid who got arrested for stealing a car or something?
Yeah. What was that about? Like, I was very confused by. There's a character in here. One of the main characters is a failed astronaut, and his son, who was kind of disillusioned by his father as a child, and his father, who went into shame. There's an estranged relationship between them, which Roland Emmerich loves an estranged father-son relationship.
I feel like a failed marriage has become.
He loves the failed marriage.
The vocabulary of I mean, not just Emmerich, but like this whole 100%. Genre, right? Yeah. There has to be, and there was no reconciliation in this, which kind of usually the married couple finds, or the divorced couple finds a way back to each other.
I think it's because Patrick Wilson had zero chemistry with any of the women that were around him on the screen, and I think they were like, you know what? Because I think we chuckled at the end when there's a scene where obviously Patrick Wilson. This is a spoiler, so for those of you that are going to see, hopefully you guys already saw it, but most of y'all listening by now know we slipped some in, but this one's important to talk about, especially if you've seen the movie. So if you haven't seen the movie, and the time that it took me to say that this is a spoiler, you probably could have stopped the podcast and gone and see it. But if you haven't, go ahead and stop the podcast now. But with all of that being said, Patrick Wilson at the very end sees his wife, who he divorced obviously earlier in the movie, who had a new husband who died over the course of the events of the movie.
Michael Pena,
played by Michael Pena. Which I have questions about casting swaps, which I think you'll be interested in. But it was Michael Pena. Michael Pena dies. Patrick Wilson looks over at his ex-wife and he goes, "Where's Tom?" And she goes, "He didn't make it." And Patrick Wilson, in probably his worst performance I've ever seen, is like, "I'm so sorry."
That is, yes, that's true. I usually believe him in everything, and he maybe he meant for that line reading to read as completely insincere.
And I laughed. You looked at me. We laughed because it was just like, I'm like, obviously you're not that sorry, and I'm like, I don't know if they're pointing to reconciliation, but yeah.
But I mean, this is the sort of thing where the the divorced spouse's new partner usually we're kind of primed to dislike them.
Yeah.
Right? And it seems like they're setting up the Pena character to be some like he's a car salesman, and he, okay, so we're not going to like him as much as we like this swaggering astronaut who lost his job unfairly, who has the movie vindicates him, that it turns out that the story that his backstory that NASA disbelieved turned out to be true and correct. But just after that introduction, the Pena character is not made to be a jerk. I mean, he's shown to be sympathetic and caring and heroic in his own way. So I mean, that's a slightly less common choice.
Well, okay, and so with that in mind, while watching this three performances mattered to me in this movie: Patrick Wilson, Halle Berry, and Michael Pena. The others also well, but in this and what I'm about to say next, I think that Patrick Wilson and Michael Pena could have switched places, and the movie could have still been the same.
Michael Pena was part of the crew in The Martian, right?
He was.
Okay,
I think they could have switched places, the movie the same, but I also think, and this is not a hot take, I really think if you think about it, it works. I think Halle Berry and Patrick Wilson could have easily switched places and been the same. It would have been equally good, if not a little bit better, in my opinion. And I'll tell you why. The idea of, if you're talking about in this case, a black woman being disgraced and discredited, and then this guy, Patrick Wilson, who was just pretty much a middle-of-the-road dude, him then slipping up and becoming the head of NASA. I was sitting there looking at it, and I'm like, I think you could have switched these roles. This might have been a different movie if you did.
That's true. And now the Halle Berry character, she does get her sort of field promotion from I don't know, whatever subordinate is she is to the director. Basically, the
deputy or
which by the way, this movie does not apparently know that the highest ranking person at NASA is the administrator of NASA, and I don't think the movie calls them that. I think it calls them director or something. Doesn't matter. Does not matter at all.
Roland's like, that's not sexy enough.
But Halle Berry essentially gets a field promotion when her boss just chickens out and bails. He flees. He tries to escape the tragedy and just save his immediate family, just like Dwayne Johnson did in San Andreas. If any of you saw that movie, kind of similar. Flick where we witnessed the death of millions of people, but as long as these 6 people that we're following
exactly, that's all that matters. Then you can play the music and, it's like we don't even worry about, because I'm always thinking about, I don't even think they think about rebuilding after this, because I'm like, how do y'all even alert everyone that everything's okay? We all just saw the moon drop from the sky, and then they even thread in this movie in the beginning, they talk about these zealots that came out, and they said all these people are following the zealots.
Yes, we see like a very brief bit of news footage of this armed cult. There's a news anchor saying, oh, the people are flocking by the thousands. I mean, the passage of time in this movie. Ronald, how much time would you say passes from the first scene of this movie to because I have no idea.
Okay. I was thinking about it. So the movie starts in 2011, and then it's 18 months later. So I assume that is 2013.
Right. Okay. So
and then it says 10 years later. And then that's 2023.
So 2023. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And then after that it's 2023, and then 3 weeks, because they mentioned that this is all going to happen in 3 weeks.
Okay. All right. That's true. But then I thought maybe they backed off that projection because the orbit of the moon kept changing because it drives itself.
Those calculations were very specious.
Yes, that's true. Only the John Bradley guy from Game of Thrones who apparently replaced Josh Gad. I think I read that in an interview with Roland Emmerich, and that's an upgrade to me. I'm not a big Josh.
I think he did a great job in this movie. I'd watch John Bradley. I would have watched John Bradley would do this on his own. But I really enjoyed him. I think he's charming. He's great to watch.
Yeah. Could we have had John Bradley and Patrick Wilson trade roles? Maybe not.
No. I think John Bradley can only trade roles with Josh Gad, unfortunately. So let me ask you this. So while we're there, can you talk about your job? Are you allowed to talk about your job? Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about your background and your expertise here, because we're in a Smithsonian building, and you work for the Smithsonian.
That's true. I work for Smithsonian Magazine now, just recently, but until the magazine unfortunately ended its run after 35 years of continuous publication. Last fall, I worked for 7 years for Smithsonian Air and Space Magazine. And my former colleague there, Heather Goss, who was the editor who more or less got me hired in 2014, she loves Roland Emmerich. She loves this genre of kind of proudly dumb, melodramatic disaster flicks, and this will be right up her alley. This is Heather. You gotta see Moonfall.
With that in mind, we're sitting there, and they say at one point, hey, we can't use any of the space shuttles because they're all in museums. And at that point, you point just past the screen, and it took me a minute to get what you were pointing out. But we're sitting in the Udvar Hazy right next to the Discover.
The shuttle Discovery. I think tomorrow I'm going to email my friend Margaret Weidekamp, who is one of the curators at the National Air and Space Museum, and ask her, like ballpark, if we had to take the Discovery out of mothballs and fly it again and launch it, how long would that take? Because in Moonfall, it seems to take a couple of hours.
Yes.
I mean, there is a cool shot of them carrying the shuttle from it's the Endeavour, which I think it's one of the museums. I think that actually is at a museum on the West Coast. I think that's correct. But we see a shot of them driving it down the street with an escort, and that was kind of cool. And you can actually see similar scenes in real life from that. Just the James Webb Space Telescope that just launched on Christmas Day last year. There was a whole thing about the transporting that to the launch pad, the rocket, and it launched from French Guiana, and it's this incredibly delicate, fragile, 10 billion irreplaceable space observatory instrument that has taken more than a decade to build. So they were driving very slowly, but
the good thing to know is, according to Roland Emmerich, if we needed to get it out fast, there's a quick option.
Yeah, that's good to know. That's good to know. I mean, it's unfortunate that they couldn't get to the museum before someone had graffitied "fuck the moon" onto the side of.
Incredible.
Is this a PG-13 rated movie?
I believe so. Okay. I think so. I'm almost positive.
My anecdotal observation is, I know the MPAA says they have no actually written guidelines about what's permissible, and they just have their panel of parents. But I think you usually get one F-bomb in a PG-13.
Yep.
And I don't think anyone says it in this movie, right? It's okay. So I guess writing counts.
Yep.
Whether it's written
we
or
saw
spoken.
it 3 times.
That's true. So maybe they are kind of beating the system.
Yeah. So let me ask you. So on Leaving the Theater, we do a 5-star rating system. What would you give this out of 5 stars?
You know what? I'm gonna give this 4 stars, Ron, because I think we have to evaluate the success of any text against its own aspirations, its own intentions, and I think this film accomplishes its goals. I don't think it's trying to be 2001. I feel confident. 4 stars.
Okay, I think this is a strong 3-star movie. I think it's a popcorn movie. I think people should see that with that in mind. If you like Roland Emmerich, you're gonna like this. If you like 2012, Day After Tomorrow, Independence Day, The Patriots, Independence Day Resurgence, White House Now. If you like all of those movies, I think this is going to fit right into his body of work very well in the long run. So I feel good about it. 3 stars, 4 stars. I think that averages out to 3.5 stars, which I think is right around where this movie falls. I don't think you should risk COVID for it if you feel skittish.
See it in an enormous IMAX theater with 2 other people.
Yes,
definitely. Do not hesitate. You'll get your 12. So I know if you're going to pay that IMAX freight, and I don't know, right? Is this there's nothing shot in IMAX in this movie, right? And it's a lot of CGI. So it
didn't look like it was.
No. So I mean, this is not like
it said optimized for IMAX.
That's true, but but I mean, it's not like a Christopher Nolan movie where you're getting clear value add for spending that extra money.
Never.
I don't think you need to see this in IMAX, but you'll have a good time.
Before I let you go, is there anything you want to plug? Anyway, and where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at CT Klimek. Make sure you tune in for the imminent first episode of 2022 of my podcast with Glenn Weldon, The Degree Absolute. We managed to get, after a sustained lobbying campaign that went on for months. It took much longer than it took NASA to ready the formerly retired decommissioned space shuttle Endeavour for launch again. But we got Ronald Young Jr. to come on the show, and I with fantastic results, discussing a truly dismissible, forgettable film, but we had a good time talking about it. So look for our Silver Streak episode, please. Okay, Degree Absolute.
A Degree Absolute, and I will have links to the show notes for that, and I'll be able to links to all of that in the show notes. Chris Klimek, thanks so much for being on the show.
Had a great time, Ronald. Thank you.
And with that, Leaving the Theater is a production of ohitsBigRon Studios. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. To find out more about this show and other ohitsBigRon Studio shows, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ohitsBigRon. That's at ohitsBigron. If you like this show, I host another show on the Pushkin Industries podcast network called Solvable. Check that out wherever you listen. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening.